Now, I have mentioned the connection between the Vatican and the Rothschilds and the Jews and the Jesuits um, versus the Jews and the Masons, a kind of phony controlled opposition. Now, let me get into the Jesuit order, the Franciscans, and touch on the Knights of Malta. This will be my last video, and I will send you down the path of research yourself. I believe if you do two things and watch all my videos, you will have a very firm understanding of the Great Conspiracy. One is to look into the historical narrative, the mainstream narrative, what the Catholics have to say about it themselves, etc., of the Franciscans, the Knights of Malta, the Holy See, the Templars, the Priory, the Franciscans, and all these other orders of the Vatican. The other is to look into valid conspiracies and conspiracy theorists is what they have to say about it. So, with that being said, I'd like to read a few paragraphs from Wikipedia about these things that stick out to me, and they are correct for the most part, and almost certainly completely. The Latin and Eastern Catholic churches together form the Catholic Church or Roman Catholic Church, the world's largest single religious body and the largest Christian church, comprising over half of all Christians, 1.1 billion Christians of 2.1 billion, and nearly 1/6 of the world's population. So I think it's important to note that 1/6 of the world's population is Catholic, and they are the largest religious body, the largest denomination, the largest sect of Christianity, and the largest religious body. So it was brought to my attention that Martin Sheen has a connection to the Jesuits and was named after a Jesuit named Sheen, I believe. And you have Knights of Malta and Jesuit connections with Kissinger and Hagues, and the Rothschilds themselves were not only the richest banking family, but they're, for the most part, in charge of the Vatican treasury. And this puts the question of who runs the world in the hands of Jews and, or versus the Vatican and versus these white people behind the Vatican. I maintained what I've always said, that occult Jews, whether they're Jews or not, but secret society Jews, people who think of themselves as Jews, as the people in charge. Now, if you look at the royal family, they believe they're Jews. Now, I always forget this term. It's like new Christian Jew movement or something. I'll put in the comments. Anyway, so it's a mix of the two. People who consider themselves descending from Jews because of that, the same way a lot of Sephardim and Ashkenazi do, and people who think that they're the true Jews and those other Jews are wrong altogether. White people, royal family people, the status quo, the aristocracy. Now, if we move on to San Francisco, let me tell you the history of it real quick, and then I'll move on and connect it in a minute. San Francisco, Spanish for Saint Francis, Franciscan order, Saint Francis, was founded on June 29, 1776, when colonists from Spain established Presidio of San Francisco at the Golden Gate and Mission San Francisco de Asís, named for Saint Francis of Assisi, a few miles away. Then it goes on to the gold rush and the earthquake and blah, 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 and the hippie counterculture, sexual revolution, peace movement, what have you. Again, this is one of the main places where Masons subvert and control opposition from. You'll see counterterrorism forces centered there. You'll see the Grand Lodge of Freemasonry there, the homosexual movement there, the Temple of Set there, hippie culture centered there, on. And it's supported by Palo Alto, which is not too far away. And you have Stanford, and you have a very similar demographic and dynamic to San Francisco and Palo Alto. You have a lot of these hippie types, a lot of these leftists. You have a lot of mental health supporters. You have, a lot of people who are the think tanks for the Jesuits, and the Masons, and the New World Order. Now, moving on, I think I can skip that Custos, the Italian FR, Friar or something, Pier Battista Pisabella. Okay. Oh, no, I have to read about that. Never mind. The custodian of the Holy Land, in short, custodian or custos, is an officer of the Franciscan order, appointed by the leadership of the order with the approval of the Vatican. The custos is the head of Franciscans in the entire Middle East. His attributions have a particular focus on the Christian shrines of the Holy Land, sanctified by the presence of Jesus. The Franciscans have assumed the task of tending to these shrines and the pilgrims visiting them on the behalf of the Latin or Western Church since the initiation of a province of the Holy Land at their 1217 General Chapter. The institution they have gradually created is historically known as the custody of the Holy Land. Okay, so think about ISIS and blowing up Christian churches, going after, some pagan stuff and really selling on the black market. This has everything to do with this. The same reason why the government controls the drug enforcement agencies and controls the drugs is the same reason why the Jesuit and the New World Order controls the groups in charge of protecting the Christian churches, especially the Catholic churches, and controls the group that's going after them. I don't really want to go into that. I want to make this about 10 minutes. I'm hoping this will be my last video ever, because I'm showing you where to finish off the research that I have made clear to you. I've always said that Adam Weishaupt was a Jesuit monk, and some people say he was an agent of the Rothschild, and it all connects together. Rothschild, Vatican Treasury, Jesuits, Vatican Order, Catholic Order. Among the many Catholic orders, Franciscans have proportionately reported higher ratios of stigmata and have claimed proportionally higher ratio of visions of Jesus and Mary. Okay, so they disproportionately say that they are experiencing stigmata, that they see Jesus and Mary, and this is what they want you to do. So this is controlling the movement of 1.1 billion people, nearly 1/6 of the world's population, the largest religious group. St. Francis of Assisi himself was one of the very first reported cases of stigmata, and perhaps the most famous stigmatic of modern times is St. Padre Pio Capuchin, who also reported visions of Jesus and Mary. Goes back to the link between the Capos and the Capuchins. And if you think about it, it also connects to, I'm not going to go there. Pio's stigmata persisted for over 50 years, and he was examined by numerous physicians in the 20th century who confirmed the existence of the wounds, but none of whom could produce a medical explanation for the fact that his bleeding wounds would never get infected. According to Encyclopedia Britannica, his wounds healed once but reappeared. According to the Columbia Encyclopedia, some medical authorities who examined Padre Pio's wounds were inclined to believe that the stigmata was connected with the nervous or cataleptic hysteria. According to theanswers.com, the wounds were examined by Luigi Romanelli, chief physician of the city of who gives a shit, okay? Personally, you can imagine, I don't believe my tribe is one of the largest Catholic tribes in the entire world. In fact, it's the largest Catholic tribe. If you can think of the Catholic tribe as tribe, larger than the Igbos in Nigeria, please let me know. If you can think of a Christian tribe larger than the Igbos in Nigeria, please let me know, because I've stated several times in my videos that I believe, or that they are, because I've never found any tribe larger than them that was Christian. Part of this is due to the fact that people don't group themselves in tribes in other places other than Africa. And Nigeria is the most populated country in Africa, and Igbo is one of the 3 major tribes there. And the Yorubas are divided between Muslims and Christians, so you can't really call them Christian tribe. So, and obviously the House of Fulani are Muslims, so for the most part. Yeah, so, if you think about it, this is all, right now I'm trying to remember what, some random thing, but let me just leave it up there. Let me just add this here. You can look at it, you can see the connection between Mexican gang members who tattoo rosaries on them, while the Mexican mafia, according to some references, bans Christianity, which is pretty complicated, right? Pretty complex why that is. But it all goes back to, who are these people really? What really do they have in common? And what is really going on here? I think one of the main things is that, when you're going to have, the Vatican is trying to create this world of Satanism and atheism, all these things that are attacking Christianity, so they can say to their flock, if you want to call them that, these are the signs of the times. They're creating a self-fulfilling prophecy, if you will. And so if you're going to have criminal groups, it's better, and you're going to control criminal groups, it's better for what they're trying to do to have them ban Christianity and Catholicism rather than be Christians or Catholics, while at the same time they're secretly Catholics, because where do they draw their membership from? Mexicans are disproportionately Catholic. It's pretty much a Catholic nation. And then you have these Mexicans that come over the border, and the ones who have been here for a while, they're still Catholics. The Mexican Mafia is a Catholic organization. It's just on record and, going out of its way to portray the idea that it bans Christianity. And the same thing can be said about the Aryan Brotherhood. For the most part, it is a Catholic organization. Who was Hitler? Hitler was highly involved in the Catholic Church. He saw himself as a new Knights Templar. He was connected to the Jesuit order, though some Catholics were persecuted, granted, but that's part of the cover. That's part of putting in people's mind and in history that these people are not Christian, they're not Catholic, they're some kind of Satanist, which is partially true. Of course, within the church, the Catholic Church, you have Satanism. So it gets pretty complicated. It's their way of controlling the Christian movement, as they always have. The Roman Catholic Church, Rome took control of things. They said, we're going to control it and make it our way, because these people are rioting in the streets and fighting with each other, and we're going to bring order out of chaos, the chaos that they partially, or for the most part, created. Especially when Paul was sent as a Roman/Jewish agent to hunt down Christians. Even that act of hunting down Christians is an act of controlling Christianity, controlling the Christian movement. Anyway, and I'm not saying Paul was wrong. I'm not saying that what he wrote in the Bible is incorrect, or what they claim that he wrote. I actually agree with what he says for the most part. So, what else did I want to touch on? Yes, that pretty much covers it. I covered all this. Then you have Nazi lowriders, Public Enemy #1, and all these groups. They're all fulfilling the same role that Hitler did. You have San Francisco. You have then you have Jesuits like McLaughlin. If you go to San Jose, East San Jose, one of the streets where you have Norteños and Sureños living on is McLaughlin. Story McLaughlin is a Sureño area that's surrounded by Norteño areas. All these streets feed into it too. A lot of these streets that gang members claim are streets related to the conspiracies, named after Masons, named after Jesuits, named after secret society members and presidents who were in secret societies, and so on. It is impossible to look into these things that I've just told you and how they connect together, and the massacres that they were involved in, and how they reached out to people. They were always missionaries, and the main groups of these missionaries were people in secret orders, the Jesuits and Franciscans and what have you, going out to indoctrinate people all over the world. This is all one great master plan. I'm sure the Vatican would explain it as a master plan of expanding Christianity and bringing the gospel to people. You understand that the gospel has truth in it. It is real for the most part. but they are trying to control it and try to control the world. Well, I'm out of time. Thank you.